And I actually never even thought that it was an option to lose, or, I just never doubted that this was the wrong direction. And it was Claire and I, we just rented a 1-bedroom room off, like a sublet of some building owners here in town. And we just started building a client base.
Hi, I'm Beth Beesky, the founder of More Time to Design and your host of the Design Dialogues podcast. I've been a designer for the last 12 years and I've run my own studio for 5. And I know how hard it is to run a successful business. You not only need to be great at designing, but you need to be great at all the other things as well. I created More Time to Design, a software platform to help designers run efficient studios, and I've created the Design Dialogue podcast to help us all learn together. Each week, we will meet professionals who are at the top of their game doing things that help us run our studios. We'll have conversations with social media managers, interior design mentors, copywriters, stylists, photographers, suppliers, and also designers who have been in the game for a long time and who have such a wealth of knowledge to share. I hope that each week you feel inspired and informed at the end of each of our design dialogues. So join me for the Design Dialogue podcast. Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Design Dialogues podcast. This week I am joined by Tess Lawry from Feather and Lawry. How are you, Tess?
Really great, thanks, Beth. Nice to hear you.
Yes. So I love to start every episode by asking, what can you see out your window today?
Well, that's a good one because actually I've got 3 options, aren't I blessed? So as you can probably see, we've got some high clear-story windows in our studio. And so, you get to see sky and clouds most of the day. And front window is a shop front where we have the historic Russell Street here in Toowoomba.
Yeah.
And, nice old buildings. And then I'm just surrounded by art on every surface. So I feel like that's my window on a day-to-day. It's just, art in our space and in our gallery.
Yes, yeah. And we will get to this, but for everyone who's only listening to this, Tess has the most beautiful artworks in her background that are in her kind of office there. And as we kind of get to know a bit more about your business, we'll understand why you have such beautiful artworks there. So, and as you just mentioned, you are based in Toowoomba, which is, now, I hope I've got my geography right. You're about an hour west of Brisbane?
Yeah, give or take, hour and a half.
Yep. Yeah, so we're kind of inland. Is it so it's a rural town, kind of what's kind of the population of Toowoomba?
Toowoomba is one of those very interesting demographics actually, because we actually are probably that inland city that services beyond. We go right out to sort of west to the borders, even northern New South Wales. So, we probably have a population of around about, I think it's a couple of 100,000, but our catchment probably is like 600,000.
Yep. Yeah. And so do you go into Brisbane, but you also kind of go really far and wide?
We do, absolutely. Yeah, I was a Brisbane girl, grew up in Brizzy, so, moved here 20 years ago, and so still service Brisbane clients, but, have really got to appreciate our country clients. And, Toowoomba has really grown in the last 20 years as well. I feel like we've come of age.
I can imagine. So tell me a little bit about, we've just touched on it a little bit, but tell me a little bit about your business, Feather and Lawry. It is a multidisciplinary firm, architecture and interior design and art gallery.
Yeah, well, Feather and Lawry, I guess, was created with, one of my best friends. We worked together down in Brisbane over 20 years ago for the same architecture firm, Thorpe Architects, and that's where we met. And we, she moved around. Her husband was in kind of the Navy, Army, Air Force, doing helicopters. And And so she ended up here, and I guess it just grew from there. Like, she reached out and said, hey, there's a gap in the market. I feel like, they really need some commercial interior designers up here. I think we should do something. And I went, oh, no, where is I don't think I really need to move. I've just had baby number 2, and, we just built a house, and, life was sort of thinking beach every weekend, and, go. So it really did come out of the blue, but the more I sat on it, the more I realised, hey, I think I'm meant to do this. I think this is, this is that opportunity that just won't go away. And so, as much as my husband said, no, we're not moving, I said, well, how about I just, leave Petalthorpe. I'd been there 10 years, worked up to sort of design manager, and I just commute, go up one day a week, catch up with Claire, we can do our thing, I'll bring work from home.
Yeah.
That'll work, 2 small kids. And,
definitely.
as you know. And so from there, it didn't take long until he said, oh, look, this is crazy. I think we should move. Well, that just, really floored me. I thought, oh, okay, yeah, well, let's do that. So, we relocated to Toowoomba, and, I still remember my thinking, oh, well, what have we got to lose, And I actually never even thought that it was an option to lose, or, I just never doubted that this was the wrong direction. And it was Claire and I, we just rented a 1-bedroom room off, like a sublet of some building providers here in town. And we just started building client base. And I did that journey for 15 years with Claire, and as best friends and friends do, sometimes their vision or their journey is completed. And they have another vision for what they want to do. And so that was Claire. She moved on about 5.5 years ago. And we had an architect working for us for 3 years before that. And so it was a natural progression to take on a new business partner.
Wow.
Michael Fleming is a registered architect, and had done a lot of work in Brisbane, and had just, sort of in the state government kind of schools, as well as smaller resi projects and, apartment, commercial projects, and was working for a large building firm up here, in developers. So he was kind of used to that scale. And so, it has just morphed into this multidiscipline, as you called it, business that has just really been a word of mouth over the last 20 years. And we've got, and then art has come along. So I hear about that story down the track.
And so how big is your team?
We have as of today, we have a team of 13.
I'm interested to know, are a lot of them kind of Toowoomba born and bred, or are they from Brisbane and they're kind of seeking out opportunities?
Yeah, a bit of both, actually. We definitely have a couple of locals, who sort of come up through school here and got qualifications. Even have moved, like Dominic went to high school here. She was actually a work experience student we had here in the office in her year 10 of high school. We do a lot of work experience students. She went off, did a degree in uni, and just happened to see that we were advertising, they were making a move back to Toowoomba, and so she's applied. So that's a really lovely story. She came to us as a high school student. We've obviously inspired her enough to, we didn't damage her until the and so she had a few years in Brisbane doing her thing, and has moved back home. So we do get those kind of, stories where family is here. So they might go away, do their qualifications, experience the world, and then think, wow, Toowoomba's a great place to be anyway. So that's where they want to set up and have their families, because
that's awesome. And I suppose for a population of that size, I imagine you are not the only architecture company or business. But how, like, what is the industry like in Toowoomba? Is there a lot of you? Is it kind of, one or two?
Oh no, look, there would be a dozen or more practices, of varying scales, from sole practitioners to, quite similar sized firms as us, studios. Um, I think that it's really grown over the last 20 years. So, when we first moved here, you only probably had a handful. And then you had a lot of more designers who were more decorator based rather than actually coming from it from a interior architecture design base that,
And so tell me a little bit about your project mix. So you've obviously got kind of across your team, you kind of tick pretty much everything that you would need for most projects. So tell me about the mix of projects that you have and kind of, I suppose, the scale of project as well. I imagine with your kind of reach from Brisbane through to I am imagining some very large kind of pastoral properties out further west, you must really see a vast array of projects come across your desk.
Yeah, we do actually, and I think that's what we love because we've got such a great project mix on our books most of the time that it makes it exciting and you're kind of picking up and putting down projects all the time, as with different timelines, with hey, some of the most exciting. Well, we've been USQ or UniSQ now, as it's known, has been a client of ours for like 15 years. So we've kind of been out there doing a lot of churn work as they move departments around. And look, we've just completed a large civic project for them, a new entry, a new art gallery, function space, and executive offices there in B Block. So that's been pretty exciting to sort of start off all those years ago just on smaller interior scale, office fit out sort of work to actually then go, wow, we've actually delivered quite a complex, multidisciplined project to the client. So that's a really lovely story we like to tell.
Yeah.
Another client sort of, multiple projects. We've just completed the Barclay Homestead up in the Northern Territory. I don't know if your listeners have been on the road and done the trip right across, from Queensland across to Darwin, but there's a homestead which is literally a campground, truck stop, motel, accommodation, drinking spot. It's the hub of, and it's in the middle of nowhere. And so that client actually, we did their house probably over 10 years ago out west.
Yeah.
And, they got us to do a beach house on a canal for them in the Gold Coast.
Yeah.
Completely different, sort
of
completely different environment. And we've done a bull sale ring for the same client out at Mitchell. So, custom, bespoke, designed, it looks like a flying crane, a bird.
Yeah.
So quite different. And then, we've just completed Barclays. So, they flew us up in a plane, a few staff, and stayed overnight, measured everything, photographed everything. And
yeah. So I was going to ask because how far away is that from your office?
Oh, Barclay? It was probably, we hopped on a charter plane, we flew to Roma, picked up the builder. And then we threw to Mount Isa and refueled, and then we flew into Barclay complete. So it was probably like a 4-hour journey, in
a plane. So how did the logistics and the day-to-day of a project like that really run? Because, how do you manage that?
Look, I think since COVID, we have got really great, COVID was a game changer. Let's be very honest with technology. And even though we were quite up with it, we've done Revit, 3D Revit sort of for the last, 5 years or more, or more than that probably. can't even remember, to be honest. Obviously different versions. When COVID hit and we had to all discover Teams meetings, and we all had to work remote. Well, from a design office how paper-based we are. Like hundreds of plans, and then you've just got to do a markup and then give it to somebody else to draft, and so all those revisions, and you've got to print a new set, and like honestly, I think we killed so many trees, like it's insane over the years, and you would know about that. So we've embraced technology, and we just love this app called PDF Drawboard. And I think doing remote projects like we do out west and northern New South Wales, and even Brisbane, like where your clients are remote and you've got a team, we can be out on site measuring up and marking it up on our iPads, and it's coming back to the office lifetime. Like somebody could be here starting to get the existing footprint down as an as-built. So, that's a small bit of that. But then all of our projects are stored on the iPad in varying, from the existing plans to any concept sketches or presentations. So you're literally taking your office on your iPad wherever you go, and you can share that with the clients if you go out west. If you've got a presentation on your iPad, or you're sharing it with them, you can show them other examples. I don't know. I think it's just technology to answer your question, and so we've embraced other apps as well, just to help us manage systems. And I know that you've got a system-based.
And I think it's really interesting because I think regardless if you have, like an inner city studio where your projects are all within a 5-kilometer radius of your office versus somewhere like you, which has a massive, massive footprint of where your projects are, ultimately it does really comes down to your systems and processes and how well you've got them set up, and also how functional and easy to access they are. So I think that is kind of a universal thing. But I'm like, and I mean, I suppose when it's in during construction, do you have to be even more organized, like to do site meetings and all that kind of stuff? Because you can't just pop down on the way into the office to check a detail or something.
No, and that's right. And I guess the good thing is we have, instead of like taking a hard set to site, you've got all your construction set on your iPad. So literally all the information, your schedules, your specifications right there. So, even if you can't be present in the flesh, you can have that phone meeting or a team meeting, FaceTime meeting with the builder. And literally be looking at the same drawing as they are. And, I think that's where it's all about communication, as it's how clear your communication can be, so that, the client's on board, the builder's on board, all the trades are on board, we're all looking at the same thing. So, and I guess with that app is, as things get superseded and drawings get updated, you actually archive it off and you upload the new one. So everyone's always fresh and up.
Wow, that's awesome. And I suppose you've kind of like answered a little bit of my next question, but what do you think are some of the challenges of having a business or working in a regional setting?
Oh, well, I think the main challenge for us here has been, people expect to have to go to Brisbane or the national companies to actually get the right architect, interior design firm to work with. And I feel like that the biggest challenge for us is getting the message out there that, even though we're, a small firm, not the smallest, but not the biggest, when it comes to those things, we still have the capabilities to deliver sophisticated, complex projects, you know, and take it from conception to completion, you know, right across. And I think it's just getting that message out. I feel like even like regional councils, they still think, oh, I better go to, you know, the national firms, you know, and you think, well, why? I mean, not that they're not good, don't get me wrong. Like, you know, why not invest in local businesses so that, you know, because we're the ones living here and got the invested interest in having beautiful built environments for our own community and as an asset, and we're going to be here long after the building's built so that we can have that relationship with you, you know, to sort of address any ongoing, you know, needs that they have. So, you know, I don't know how you get that message out, but I feel like sometimes people think, you know, big is better, you know, whether that's city or whether that's just the size of a firm or, yeah. So,
and does that also, I suppose, work against you on the flip side? Like if you are pitching for work in Brisbane, do people are like, oh, you're from Toowoomba? Like what would you know? You're from Toowoomba.
Where is Toowoomba? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So
yeah. No, I think you're dead right. We all have the, you know, we all presume we know, don't we? And you know, kudos to social media in some ways because, you know, it's such a pictorial driven, you know, image, and that's what our industry is, isn't it? You know, we're all images and look, it does work. And I guess we've had some great relationships with homegrown builders here in Toowoomba. Like Toowoomba's actually been one of those places that have really grown businesses to be national businesses, like the FKG Gardeners and the McNabb Developments and Hutchies. Like all these builders started really small here in Toowoomba and now all over, you know, all over Australia. So the beauty about being in a regional small community, and I wouldn't say small, but like, is that you get to have a personal relationship with those owners and people, and I guess they then trust you to actually deliver their projects wherever they are. You know, if they're the right fit and the right timing. Even so that you're actually working on their own homes as well as their development projects. So I think that's really lovely to have that relationship with, you know, these clients that, you know, you've got that, they trust you to do their own personal jobs. Places where they live, you know, as well as, you know, the more commercial ones, which let's face it, it's less personal sometimes. It's more about delivering an asset for the right price.
Yeah, exactly. More about the bottom line.
Not so personal.
Yeah, and I think that's
you're right. It's like, how do you? But anyway, we're getting there. We're getting there.
Yeah, and look, I think that's really interesting that you talk about relationships because I think that's universal. Like, you know, on a couple of recent episodes, I've been talking to other interior designers, and so much of your business success comes down to who you can pick up the phone and make a call to, and building those relationships. I do imagine in a smaller town than Sydney or Brisbane, that can almost be not harder, but have different challenges. Like, you know, you might have an easier ability to meet someone that is going to help you down the track, but it also might mean that you see that person every Saturday morning at your son's cricket game kind of thing. Like, I imagine there's a little bit, like, you kind of got to be a little bit kind of not strategic, but just work the room in a special way in a regional town because you never quite know who you're going to run into at Woolies.
I think I learned really quickly when I moved to Toowoomba that nearly everybody knows everybody else, or there's 6 degrees of separation. So you learn really, really quickly just to, you know, just be your authentic self and just be honest and trustworthy, and, you know, don't gossip. And, you know, I think that just will set the scene for, you know, keeping things professional, I guess.
Yeah.
But it does work the other way too, because you build up that trust. So, if you're having a chat to someone on the sideline at the soccer game, and they say, oh, I've been meaning to come and see you, and go, oh, that sounds great, like just give us a call on Monday, or, you turn up at an event, and someone goes, oh, there you are, I've been meaning, I've got this great project. So, it's when you go to events and networking events, and, we belong to the Toowoomba Chamber of Commerce here, as well as, there's another network like Tisby. You do run into sort of people all over the place, but maybe you're just reconnecting all the time with people.
And it's that really kind of, I suppose, soft sales and marketing, which is so much easier to do than, the more, where it's a bit more structured and all that kind of stuff. So it's actually most probably a very lovely way of building business networks.
I think the challenge that brings to, though, like we did talk about challenges, is that sometimes, because our beginnings were two interior designers starting a business, we started small, that you're still kind of pigeonholed into that, that you're just interior designers, and I think you've got to work really super hard to change that perception. And that's probably where we're at the moment. I think over the last 5 years, my new business partner, Mike, quite a few years younger, a lot more energy, a lot more tech has brought a lot more to the table, which is great. It's sort of like, that's just not my thing. And I feel like the message is slowly getting out there that, hey, we're more than just interior design these days. And not that that was ever a problem, but I guess you start to build a team and you've got more capabilities, and you start to seek, the different projects or the larger scale projects. You keep everybody going. I think that's all the better, and keeping everyone employed.
So now, as I mentioned at the beginning of the episode, I am looking at some very beautiful artworks behind Tess. Tell me, how did adding an art gallery to your already very busy business come about?
Well, yes, we do have an art gallery. And look, it's one of those evolutions, I think, that happened because, we bought this building where I'm sitting now, probably, I think we're 2 years into our partnership. When we bought the building, and, it was just 200 square meters of just all this space. And there was Claire and myself and our admin girl. And, we opened the doors and had a big party, opening kind of a housewarming sort of thing, and it was just so blank. Blank. We didn't have much money, we didn't have much of anything. There was only 2 desks, and maybe 2 desks, and so we had done a bit of a modest refurb of the building and a fit out, and so I was blessed to have 2 artists in my family, my sister, who's Phoebe Zylstra, and my my sister-in-law, Lynn Monday. And so we approached them and said, hey, could you do us a favour? We'd love to have an opening, but it's a bit bland, could we borrow some art? And they said, no problem. So, carloads of art came, we hung it up around, and I think it was from that moment on, we were always going to be an art gallery. You just know, and I think it's that personal relationship with art that I have that I just really love original art. I think there's something tangible about it. It's something that evokes emotion. I'm right into psychology of space. It's something I'm really passionate about, and I feel that it's bringing an emotion to the table. Love it, hate it, doesn't matter. But if you react to art, you get to learn a little bit more about them, and we take them on the education journey as we go through design as well. And so that's how we became a space anyway. And from there, we sort of got a little bit more particular. And now we have a stable of artists. We kind of like to do 10 to 12 at a time,
Yep.
different kind of genres, you know, so everyone's got a little bit of something different to bring to the table.
Yep.
And we just have a contract with them, a yearly contract, so they commit to. And then we have like 4 or 5 art openings. We've
Yep.
just, you know, back up since COVID. And the idea of that is we cross-pollinate audiences, so, you know, different customers for different artists, and, you know, then they get to see somebody else's that they might like. So it's, you know, it's all about just growing the love of art, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really awesome. And are a lot of your artists, are they local to Toowoomba? Do you have a focus on more regional based artists?
To be honest, we do, and I guess we were always here to promote, you know, local art. But probably half of the artists would be, you know, Toowoomba immediate surrounds.
Yeah.
And half is sort of like we've got someone from the sunny coast, we've got someone from Bribie Island, we've got an artist from Melbourne, Lynn's down sort of, you know, Ulladulla, Mollymook way, you know, Richmond, Venus. So we do, it's really just based on now artists having an expression of interest, and then we just, you know, assess where we're up to now with that next fit, you know.
Yeah.
Artists like to take a break and, you know, sort of do something else for a bit, so then we'll have a gap and that gets filled pretty quickly. So.
Awesome. And how much do you kind of, when you're working on your interiors projects, how much, so obviously art is such a crucial part of those projects, how much do the two kind of cross-pollinate for you?
Interesting you should say that, actually, because, you know, we always love to get our, you know, new clients, or, you know, when we're establishing the brief, you know, we like to get them, we do meet them out on site, but then, you know, as we do the concept presentation, we like to bring them into our space, just to sort of reinforce, you know, maybe we know what we're doing a little bit. That we've just recently fitted out our own space last year, and I think we start to take them on the journey then, because that just creates a conversation. Oh, I didn't realise you were an art gallery. You know, we talk a little bit about why, and it's, you know, it's something that as we go through the project with them, we are always just popping it in. You know, maybe we're upselling a little bit, maybe, you know, but we're just talking about, you know, oh, you know, this would be a great place to have an art piece, or this would be, you know, this is what we're imagining in the space. And when we even have our, you know, we do our fly-throughs, our 3D fly-throughs, or we do our art, you know, our presentations, we'll always Photoshop one of our artworks into their space, you know, just to have that emotion, you know, just to give them that, rather than use somebody else's images, we use our own. And I think that's one of the benefits for our artists, that point of difference of representing them here, is because even though we're probably a little bit not just a drop-in space, although that's really changing now that everyone's out and about, but a lot of our work goes into spaces, a lot of the art pieces goes into our clients' homes, and they get taken on the journey of why, you know, they sit in here and and they react to pieces, and we talk about that a bit more, and so it's fun, actually. It's nice to be able to add to, you know.
Yeah, and I think that's really lovely, because I think in a very natural way you're able to do that with clients, which I think so often art can sometimes be thought of, you know, as a last minute thing or at the end of the project. And I think so often art in particular should be such an integral part of the design process, because it is such a personal thing. It's, you know, it's, as you said, it really does evoke emotion, and working with a piece of artwork in mind that invokes a certain emotion can really sometimes frame how a design plays out. So I think that's really a lovely experience for your clients that you're able to do that.
And I think too, on a commercial note, like we've really, you know, like small artists you know, if you're doing sort of work for an accountant firm or a law firm, or, you know, we've just done a job recently, and, you know, they literally were expanding a bit of space and just wanted a refresh. You know, they didn't know what they needed, they just needed it to be more inspiring. You know? And we, you know, so we're accountants, you know, they didn't have high expectations of, you know, space. So it was pretty easy, but, you know, we sort of, we went there and we had a little chat and said, look, you know, we could probably do something a bit with the carpet, you know, upgrade your furniture. It was probably more in the decorating kind of realm, design, a little bit of joinery, and most of it, then I said, you know, what, you've got a blank canvas here, you know, how about we take off, you know, the kids' drawings off the walls, and, you know, and you start a bit of a commercial collection for your office, and this is going to actually increase your staff morale. You know, you're going to give them something to look at. They're going to feel, you know, they want to come to work and sit in the spaces because there's something interesting to look at, and it's quite an internal space too. And then your clients, you know, it's a conversation starter. And so we did, you know, we presented this art concept where it would go, and present them with some options. And you know, there were two gentlemen and a lady that were, you know, the clients, and different ages, and the reactions of what they each liked was quite, you know, said, okay, this may be, you know, just come back a little bit. This is not for your house. This is for you. And, you know, let's do a collection that's going to be, you know, something that is going to be across the board. And so we did quite large scale botanical flowers, colourful flowers, because they didn't have a large budget, but they just needed impact. You know, impact and on the walls. And it was like, oh, no, we don't do flowers. We don't do flowers. And so, you know, so look, how about we just bring a couple of different things, you know? And so we took the flowers, large scale flowers, and we took some other work that they liked. And they went, now we get it. Yes, no, what we thought we liked, yeah, no, this is right for the space. And it was just, you know, almost taking them along the journey. And I run into Sam at events, and he goes, he says, we just love our space, you know, like, we can't believe that, you know, the little bits you did have made such a difference to, you know, our space. And that's really rewarding, you know.
It's so rewarding. And it also goes to the point that it doesn't always need to be a massive budget. Like that, I think, is the value that an interior designer or an architect brings, is that it's not about the budget. It's that we actually know what we're doing. Like, they're accountants, they know what to do with numbers. Like, it's that value that you bring that is not about the amount of money you've got to spend on something. And I think that's something that as interior designers and architects to a certain degree, because I think they're painted with the brush of, well, you're too expensive for me.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
I think selling the value that we bring to any size project is something that I think most interior designers could do better, because I think it's a point that is quite often misunderstood.
Look, I think you've hit the nail on the head there. I think, you know, people think to use our services, you know, it's going to be expensive. And what we always kind of educate, because that's what we're doing, isn't it? We're taking people through an education process, especially if they're the first time using the services. And normally they've already made expensive mistakes in the past. So it's quite have that chat and say, you know, well, look, it's expensive these days. Like, you know, everything costs money, well, double what it used to cost. And it's way cheaper on paper. You know, we go through the process and you can see everything, you know, we'll take you on the journey. You'll see what you're getting before it's built, and it'll look like what you see. So, you know, I think that gives them that reassurance then that, you know, they're on the right track.
Yeah, it's always good. It's always good. So tell me, what are you looking forward to in your business for the next 12 months?
Look, we've got a bit of change afoot, actually. We've got one of my young designers is about to start a family. one's getting married, and so there's a lot of little things happening in the office that's going to bring some change.
Yeah.
But I think the next 12 months, I'm feeling like we're on this trajectory of growth. Like we've kind of come through the last 5 years just working on systems, and they're so important, as you would know. Um, and just working through all aspects of the business, popping different hats on and going through everything. We've just engaged some marketing. Normally we do that all in-house. So it's like, it's time to get that right message out there, that we've spoken about.
Yeah.
And put ourselves out there a little bit more than what, rather than just sitting back and waiting, like, just to go out and get on the front foot a little bit. So I'm thinking that, we've got some good projects in the office at the moment, and we hope to see them delivered.
Yep.
And I think that would just be awesome to have, these really exciting projects delivered, and, with the benefit of more to come, It's probably a growth phase. I feel like we're sort of in that little growth, and whether that's personal growth with the young team, the team members we've got, and we will be looking for another interior designer, and maybe a design architect, somebody for the gallery as well. So I think with new stuff comes new ideas and new collaborations, and
Wow, what
actually.
an exciting time. I think growth is always like, it's that, anxiety of exciting but nervousness, and like, but it is like ultimately a very exciting phase of a business. You kind of like, it's like, what can come from it. So what an exciting time you've got ahead of you. And how can our community reach out and find you?
Well, we just, I don't know if I told you this, but we had a flood through here 12 months ago, or actually a bit over now. So while we were relocated, squatting, no, not really, but and we rebuilt, we had plenty of time to sort our new website out. So that was launched last year.
Yeah.
The website is great. I think people will really get to feel, see some of our new, like our work there. I think, people will relate to that.
Yeah.
Or they won't,
Yeah.
kind of not very pigeonholed. Like we really design custom, bespoke, and individual solutions for people. So, I think people will kind of see the variety there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And I encourage everyone to check out your website, because you really do have a vast array of project styles on there. There's one project on there which I think you would be for the client that you talked about, but the Gold Coast, the house that's on the canal, it is like amazing.
That is only a render at this point.
Yeah.
I know, and that's what I mean. Like people will actually see, well, that's what I'm getting. Yes, and that's what you will get. I think that's the great thing about where our capabilities have gone for the, technology.
Yeah, like to be all honest, I hope this doesn't come across in a bad way, but when I looked at your website, I was like, I would not have thought an architecture firm in Toowoomba would be doing work like this. Like, it is really beautiful. Like it's not what you would, it's not what I was expecting, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, and that's great. So social media, like we've got the two handles. We've got Feather and Lawry Design, and Feather and Lawry Gallery. We do like to keep them separate because I guess, as you would know, the art is very image focused, and like retail kind of a outlet, where design, it's kind of a whole different thing. So and the same on Facebook. It's amazing we still have the different demographics to deal with, and you can reach out on LinkedIn as well. But any of those are
all the usual places, and we will link to all of those in the show notes for everyone. Thank you so much, Tess. This has been an awesome conversation. I have learnt a lot today about life in Toowoomba. But thank you so much for joining us.
No, and thanks, and have a great day.
Thank you for listening to this design dialogue. I hope you have found it full of inspiration and helpful information to take into your design studio. If you like the podcast and want to hear more, consider sharing it or writing a review, as it helps us reach more people, and follow us wherever you get your podcasts. If you would like to unlock the power of effortless studio management and elevate your design business to new heights, please follow the links in our show notes to see how more time to design can help you build a better business. Have a great week, and I will see you for our next Design Dialogue.